How's it going, everybody, and welcome back to the Repti-verse. My name is Repti, and you're watching the Repti-verse. In today's video, we're going to be doing a little bit of a hot topic, a little bit of something that brings some contention in the reptile world, and just the world of average citizens in Florida who maybe don't know a lot about these animals. Now, I'm not here to start any fights. If you disagree with me, you're more than welcome to disagree with me, but I'm just giving my take on what's happening in Florida and talk about these animals after about 10 years of experience with them. Now, I'm not in Florida, so invasive species where I am, sure, we have some invasive things and invasive animals. Honeysuckle, for one. A lot of those plants over here are honeysuckle. That's invasive and it's destroying the ecosystem in Ohio. So I do understand wanting to protect your ecosystem. And this is by no means a video advocating against taking pythons out of the Everglades. So the main reason why I want to talk about this video is this video. So that was really just a video about a team. They're talking about the biggest invasive Burmese python ever found in the Everglades. I believe it was about 18 feet and between 250 to 300 pounds. So it's a very, very big Burmese python. Burmese pythons rarely get that big. Even in captivity, we rarely see them anywhere close to that size. A lot of people say they do, and usually when they do, they're really unhealthy animals, really obese. But this one was in fairly good shape. I mean, it was a little bit overweight, but I mean, it's hard to be an 18-foot, 300-pound snake and not look a little bit big. Now, as many of you know, I have a Burmese python that you all know and love, and I love with all my heart. His name is Sirius. He is a Burmese python, and I've had him for about 2 years now, close to 2 years. And he goes to every one of my educational programs because he is such a docile animal. He's such a great ambassador for the species. So I love this snake. I hang out with him every single day, and it's one of the highlights of my day. Now, the Burmese python is the third or fourth largest snake in the world. It depends on how you're looking at it. Reticulated pythons are longer than them. Green anacondas are typically longer than them. And then they kind of bounce back and forth with African rock pythons as to which one's bigger, depending on who you ask. So being the third largest snake in the world, I believe the biggest one ever on record was about 22 to 24 feet. I'll put some information up here. And these snakes originate in Southeast Asia. That's where they're from, and that's where they're supposed to be in the wild. However, back in the 1990s, a hurricane came through South Florida. There was a breeding facility there, and it just got wiped out by this hurricane. And so many invasive pythons escaped into the wild that way. And that's where the invasive problem really started. It was not responsible reptile keepers, or reptile keepers in general, taking this like 10-foot snake that they didn't realize it would get that big and releasing it in the Everglades. Sure, that happened occasionally, but it didn't happen nearly enough to be the issue that it is today. If that were the case, there would be just as many invasive reticulated pythons in the Everglades as there are Burmese pythons. Now, there are some invasive retics, I believe, in Florida, but I think they found less than 40. So clearly it's not the big issue that Burmese pythons are. One of the reasons that this is such a contentious topic is because the reptile community is under attack a lot, especially now. Our rights are being taken away to own these animals, and a lot of us are scared about the right to keep and breed these animals being taken away even more in the future. I know I'm scared of it, and something that really bothers a lot of reptile keepers is when we see people saying that all these animals got in there because we are just releasing our pets. Because I would never release any of my exotic animals. And for that matter, neither would most of the people that I know and talk about these animals. I don't know anybody who would say, yeah, I'm going to go down into the Everglades with my python and release it. I don't know anybody who would ever do that. I know those people exist, but we don't associate those people in the reptile community. They're not welcome here, and it's largely because of them that we're having these rights taken away from us. And as the person in this video said, I'm not really sure what his title is. If you know, let me know in the comments, because I'm not sure. But as he said, pythons are really affecting the endangered species in Florida. The key logger wood rat is being picked off all the time. by younger Burmese pythons, and then white-tailed deer are killed and eaten by much larger Burmese pythons. And this definitely does affect animals like the Florida panther. The Florida panther is completely running out of prey source because the prey that they're looking for isn't as readily available. That is a problem. Of course, I'm by no means wanting Burmese pythons to be kept in the Everglades. I don't want them there. I know that they don't belong there. And something that a lot of people in the reptile community really do need to understand is that most people can't just on a whim take in an 18-foot, 300-pound wild-caught Burmese python. I would have loved to. I can't do that, though. I'm barely going to have the space for the couple of giant snakes that I have. I don't need another one. But there's not very many Brian Bartricks of the world. And every zoo can't just take every big invasive animal or every animal people don't want to keep anymore. It becomes a big problem for zoos, and it becomes a big problem for rescues, and it becomes a big problem for keepers and breeders. So it's not realistic to go into these videos and say, well, you shouldn't have euthanized that animal. You should have sent it to somebody who really wanted it. Sure, there are definitely those people out there. But I mean, for one, I don't know if I would necessarily trust those people with a big Burmese python. I don't think that most people should really own Burmese pythons. I obviously don't support taking away the right for people to own big snakes. Never going to be in support of that. I just think that your average everyday Joe probably shouldn't have one of the biggest snakes in the world unless you really know what you're doing and really know how to read body language. So sadly, euthanasia is really one of the only options, if not the only option, that there is for these snakes. Now, you may be thinking, well, why can't we just, pack them up and ship them to Southeast Asia? Because they are endangered in Southeast Asia. Problem is, again, like the guy in this video said, they're not even the same snake anymore. They're Burmese pythons, sure, but the DNA between the Everglades Burmese pythons and the Asian Burmese pythons is slightly different. That does not mean that these are now their own native Floridian species of snake. That's not at all what it means. It just means that they're evolving slightly differently based on where they are. And not only that, we don't want to take these invasive animals from Florida and take them somewhere where they can release diseases to what is left of the wild population in Southeast Asia, because that could wipe them all out over there. So again, that's why unfortunately euthanasia for especially snakes this large a lot of times is the only option. And then there's people like the Chandlers and the Tylers of the world who, after these animals are euthanized, they'll recycle them and feed them, like, to say they're king cobras. It's a great source of food for their exotic animals. So, yes, unfortunately, there is very little that we can do about these animals other than euthanizing them. Now, one of the bigger issues with that is finding them all. Burmese pythons, as you can see from the pictures that I've put up throughout the video, they are insanely good at camouflaging themselves, especially in environments like the Everglades. So it is very, very difficult to find them. There are some full-time python hunters, but they haven't found nearly enough to really make a dent in the population. Sure, finding this big female is definitely going to help. This female Burmese python isn't going to be able to lay more eggs or produce more young that are going to get out into the Everglades, because one of them can make up to 100 babies. That's a lot more invasive snakes. And I believe that the estimation for how many invasives there are is between 5 to 500,000 invasive animals. So it does help catching, the one big female, or the few big females that you can find, destroying whatever python nests you can find. That definitely does help. But one snake, awesome, now there's 499,000 of them left. So what is the solution? I don't know. I don't have a solution for it. I've yet to hear a good solution for it. We've thought about making a virus that would kill all the Burmese pythons. The problem with that is it would be really difficult to make one that would only affect that one species of snake and not risk hurting the rest of the Florida reptiles, like indigo snakes, which are endangered. Same thing with eastern diamondbacks. We don't want to do something that could potentially hurt those animals. So no, we really don't have a solution right now. I really hope that we get one someday, but at this point it's looking kind of bleak, unfortunately. But here's something that I really feel like needs to be said. We need to stop fighting with each other about this. This isn't the fault of the reptile keepers like myself, or like the Brian Barczyks or the Kevin McCurleys of the world. This isn't our fault. It's not the fault of the Florida residents that have to deal with these animals a lot. So we shouldn't be name calling and playing the blame game about this. Like I said, most of this came from a natural disaster, from a hurricane. I don't know about you, but I can't control the weather and I can't control hurricanes. But unfortunately, there are still people who think that these animals are getting there because we're releasing our animals. Which, in reality, if that were the case, there'd be a lot of more morphs of invasive Burmese pythons down there. There'd be granites, there'd be albinos. But that's one of the ways that you can really tell that a lot of this isn't exactly recent animals being released, because they're all wild types. And I will say, I really respect the hell out of these people that are trying to make a difference. I know that these lawmakers are trying to do what's best for the Florida ecosystem, but what they're doing, what they recently did, banning a bunch of exotic animals, not just Burmese pythons, reticulated pythons, water monitors, anacondas, tegus, which are invasive as well. But they banned a bunch of different exotic animals, and that's not helping your case at all. That's just gonna piss off the reptile keepers even more, and that's not what you want. We're some of the people who know these animals best. We're some of these people that can actually help you find a solution. Pissing off the people that can help you find a solution isn't the best way to go about this, and it never will be. Alright, I think that's enough rambling for today. I am finally getting back to regular videos here on the Repti-verse, so I should be doing 1 or 2 videos a week. I think I'm going to ease back in with 1 a week. In the description below this video, you'll find a link to the Discord server, a link to the Patreon page, and a link to go support USARK. USARK is helping protect our rights as reptile keepers, so definitely go show them some love. There will also be a link to my second channel, which is Rigid Chaos, which is my gaming channel. Go there. Hope to see you there. We're going to have a lot of fun. And without any further ado, I think that's all I've got. So, oh, happy Pride Month, by the way. And peace out, YouTube.